Hi everybody, Tex-Mex here. Thanks for joining me for another video. Today's video is going to be comparing the PX4 Beretta and the CZ P01. I should say the PX4 Compact specifically. Why I'm comparing these two? Well, mainly because they're two of the guns I carry a lot for self-defense. I mean, as far as similarities, size, they're very similar in size and weight. This is 27 ounces versus 28 ounces. They're both hammer fired. They're both compact 9mm. They can both fire in single and double action, and fundamentally they are both excellent pistols. Now, as far as differences, the biggest one obviously being we have one that has an alloy frame and one that is polymer. And then beyond that, this has a rotating barrel system. This has a tilting barrel system. This one has a safety that also acts as a decocker. This one's decocker only. Although technically this is the Type F, but you can also make it a Type G Beretta PX4 with a kit that lets you change out the safety to be a decocker only. Now, as far as the difference between a tilting barrel and a rotating barrel, well, those are the ways that it has delayed blowback systems. Obviously, these aren't a straight blowback semi-automatic like a lot of smaller caliber ones are, such as 22s and 380s. And what I'm talking about is when you fire a handgun, for those of you that don't know, so the round will be in the chamber, and once the primer is struck, the projectile is going to come out the barrel. But immediately when it's fired, there's going to be forces pushing the slide and barrel back. Now, what you want to do is keep this area sealed so that the casing doesn't pop out prior to the projectile coming out of the front of the firearm. That way, most of the gases get blown out the front of the barrel instead of back here towards the shooter. So, unlike straight blowback actions that just use the weight and mass of the slide to delay that, you have these delayed blowback actions that have systems that keep the barrel and the slide together just for a little bit prior to this opening up and the casing coming out. And in many circumstances they are tilting, such as this one. And let me see, it might even be easier to show it this way. No, it probably would be best this way. But let me move around here, get on the other side of the camera. I was attempting to avoid my shadow getting in the way of the shot, but I don't think that's going to be possible here. So first of all, let me double check here. See, it's empty. There is nothing in the magazine. So, and you know, somebody commented on one of my videos why I do that. Since I'm the only person out here and the safety check is just for me, why do I bother? And really because it's good habit. It's something I was taught as a child when dealing with handguns, and I think it's a good habit for everybody, that if you're going to start manipulating a firearm, giving it to somebody else, or even looking at it yourself, check it, make sure it's unloaded multiple times. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's better than having an accident. So in a delayed blowback action, what'll happen is, in this case, I'm going to pull it back just a little bit. As you see there, the barrel doesn't start separating immediately from the slide as it starts coming back. Just for a little bit, they stick together. And then eventually the barrel drops out, the slide and barrel separate. That's when the casing is going to start to come out. And as you can see here, the barrel slightly tilts up. Now, the difference with the Beretta is that the Beretta, instead of being tilting, and let me do the same thing. I'm going to do a check. Nothing in the magazine, nothing in the chamber. Let me go ahead and cock the hammer back just to make this easier as well. You'll see here that once again they stick together, but this one sticks together with a rotating action, and once they separate, instead of tilting, the barrel basically stays straight. It just rotates back into place as it comes back forward. So those are just two actions that these firearms have. Tilting barrel is more classic. You'll find that in many more firearms than you will a rotating barrel. In fact, there's very few semi-automatic pistols that I'm aware of that have rotating actions. The old one that Beretta came out with was the Cougar. I think Stoeger maybe still makes them. And I'm sure there's other ones out there, but the only ones I know of are the PX4 line. Now, one of the things I'm going to do here to compare these two is I'm going to shoot them. I have a target out there at, I think it's about 15 yards, probably under 20. I'll check it right now in a second. Okay, I just checked it with my rangefinder. It is 16 yards. So I'm 16 yards away. I'm going to use a shooting bag to rest my hands for both of them, just to see how accurately I can shoot them when my hands are at rest. That's about as accurate as they're going to get. And I'll be using, I've got Herter's, Remington, and Blazer brass here. I'll probably use the Blazer brass. I've had a lot of good luck with that. And then after that, I'm going to see how quickly I think I can put them on steel. I'll get a little closer to that. I'll probably get about 12 yards away when I do that. Let me just show you where my targets are. Let's turn my camera around here. So there are the targets down there, and those targets are at 16 yards according to my rangefinder. And one other thing I'll do right now before we start up is I do have my trigger gauge here, so I'm going to see the differences in their double and single action trigger pull, and we'll check the reset. In fact, let's check the resets first here, since that's something we can do real quick. Okay, I'm checking them again, make sure they're not loaded. They are not loaded. So let me go ahead and, now the one thing about the P01, and this is true for a lot of CZs, is there's a little bit of creep there. And you could see that creep as I was pulling the trigger back. I'll do that again so you can see it. Here, let me get my camera back on. There we go. See, that's take up. But once the take up is done, there's a little bit of creep, but it's starting to smooth itself out. I've only put a few hundred rounds through this, and I can say the trigger is getting better with time. So that's something to know with the CZs. A lot of people send them off to get the triggers done, and I'm sure they can get some wonderful triggers that way. But if you wait a bit, your trigger will improve with time as the sear starts to smooth out. And see, that's the creep right there. So there's the travel. It feels like it stops. There's a little bit of creep, and then it fires. Let me do that one more time. The travel, it stops. I can feel like a wall there, but when I start to pull, oh, see, that time there was no creep. And that's the problem. Now on a combat handgun, that doesn't really matter as much. So there's the travel. Yeah, see, as I'm shooting it more, the creep's starting to kind of disappear. But no, you saw that? That was a little bit of creep. And then it shoots. And as far as the trigger reset, let's see here. Not too bad, not too bad. I mean, you could hear it. It's got a strong click, and you can certainly feel it. And there's still a little creep after the trigger reset, and then it fires. We'll do that one more time. There's the reset. A little bit of take up. It feels like take up, maybe a little creep, and then it fires. So it's not a bad trigger. It's certainly one that is manageable. I shoot really well with it, and with time I expect to get smoother. And like I said, a lot of people send them off and get them done professionally if you want a amazing trigger quickly out of the box. And now I'm going to check the Beretta again. It's all empty, ready to go. Now this one's seen a few more rounds because I've carried this one much longer. But let's see here. As far as the take up, there's the take up. And this one doesn't have any creep. It just takes up, it hits the wall, and then it breaks. And it breaks well. I mean, out of the box, I will say the PX4's trigger is better than the CZ. So there's just that take up, it stops, and it breaks. And it's a really nice single action there. And now let's check their trigger weights. We will start with the PX4 Compact. I have to hold this to where I'm not interfering with the hammer. Got to get this right in the center of the trigger. Double action, 8 pounds, 3.6 ounces. Let's try that a couple of times. 8 pounds, 12.6 ounces. So I get that right in the center. It's kind of a wide trigger, so it's making it hard on this gauge. There we go. And 7 pounds, 13.8 ounces. So just over 7 pounds, low in the 8 pounds, not bad. And now let's see how it does on single action. So single action, 4 pounds, 6.2 ounces. Feels lighter than that. In fact, I'm gonna rest my hand on the table. It's gonna probably make it a little more steady. 4 pounds, 8.0 ounces. So yeah, I guess that's about right. One more. 4 pounds, 8.4 ounces. Quite consistent, quite consistent. Now let's check the CZ. So the CZ will start by checking its double action. Again, it's all nice and empty there. Once again, I am going to rest my hand on the table. It just makes it a little more steady when I'm pulling back this trigger gauge. Okay, so double action. Ooh, 11 pounds, 11.6 ounces. 10 pounds, 6.0 ounces. I don't know if you can see that. We'll do one more. 11 pounds, 4.2 ounces. I'm not sure I'm getting it exactly in the center of the trigger. Let me try that one more time. It's kind of hard on these wider pistol triggers. Yeah, 11.11 ounces. 11 pounds, 11 ounces. Yeah, so that's a much heavier double action trigger. Now, let's see what the CZ's single action trigger is like. 3 pounds, 14.3 ounces. Four pounds, 5.6 ounces. Okay, not terribly consistent between those two. Trying to make sure I'm pulling this straight and consistent. 4 pounds, 0.9 ounces. Let's do one more. 4 pounds even. So yeah, not a bad trigger, not a bad trigger. This one, the CZ, has a much heavier double action, and I guess on single action about the same as the Beretta. So now that we've checked their triggers and their resets, let's go ahead and do the fun stuff. I'm going to start shooting them, and first we'll do the rested shooting and see how they group there at 16 yards. Well, the sun's starting to go down. Let me take my hat off so I can put my ears on. So hopefully you're not getting a lot of glare in the lens here. I know my camera at the target is in the shade. Now, another similarity between these two firearms is that the PX4 and the CZ magazines both take 15 rounds. Now, obviously, I expect that both also have higher capacity magazines you can find for them, but that's what you standard get out of the box. So I'm going to go ahead and shoot the PX4 first, and I'm going to put it in the left target. Actually, I may try to put my hat just a little bit to block the sun out of my eyes. Okay. And that's 10 rounds. I have to move my camera over so I could get the other target. I put my ears back on here. And in case I didn't say it already, I am shooting the Blazer brass out of these firearms. So that's what I'm testing with them right now. I'm shooting them all in single action, obviously. And the reason I'm resting is just to make sure that it's not, well, I mean, I could still be, there's always room for user error no matter what I do. But at least there's less chance if I do this that I'm jerking the gun one way or the other. So let me get my hat right there, keep the sun out of my eyes. And that's 10. Let's go take a look at our target. Here we are at our targets, and as I expected, I'm shooting them about the same. I don't know, it seems that the CZ, I may have had a slightly tighter group. It looked like I was pulling them a little bit to the left. The sights on the CZ are night sights, so the green dot is much smaller, and honestly right now with the sun somewhat in my eyes, that made it a little harder to see, to line up my sights. That being said, it looks like it's a pretty good group. Only one that dropped down here. If you take that one out, that's really, really nice. I just didn't keep them all in the red. A few fell in the 9 over here. As far as the Beretta, the same. I mean, they all stayed pretty good. Only one in, well, 1, 2, 3 in the 9, and then the rest stayed here in the red. So not bad. Very comparable, I think, with either firearm. If you practiced with it quite a bit, you'd be able to get really nice tight groups at even some decent distances if you just put enough time and practice into it. So now I'm going to see how well I shoot both of these freehand at some steel. Now for shooting the steel, I'm going to start with the CZ this time. I've got 10 rounds in here. I'm at a bit of an angle. I'm not shooting this steel straight forward from the front, I should say, which is going to make it a little trickier because it makes the target slightly smaller. But unfortunately, the sun is setting right over there, and I don't want to get a lot of glare in the picture here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double tap the center target, then try to put a slower round in the left than right, and just keep that until I run out of ammunition. Okay, not bad, not bad. Looks like I was squeezing my hand. I was pulling the shots a little bit to the right. But like I said, I haven't shot this one very much. I do like the feel of the grip in my hand. This one feels better to me than the PX4, but I have a little more time on the range with the PX4. So let's try that one next. And now we're gonna try that with the PX4 Compact, 10 rounds in the magazine. Once again, at an angle from our targets, just to keep the sun out of the camera. We're going to try to do double taps to the center target and single taps to the side plates. See how we do here. Oh, that's 10. Now I missed one of the shots on the left target, which I think I did with the CZ as well. I think on the CZ I missed the last one on the left target. So in the end, I seem to shoot them both about the same. Well, as always, that was a ton of fun. I really enjoy putting rounds through these things. Even after I shut off the camera, I shot them a little bit more, just to see if I could get all 10 rounds on target. And spoiler alert, I always missed one. But that's the frustration, and that's the sort of drive that keeps you practicing, because you have to practice. That's one thing about shooting, which is you have to practice. Whether it's rifles, whether it's pistols, or whether it's shotguns, they are perishable skills. And I see it more with pistols than anything else. As a kid, I think I mastered rifles first because I started shooting them from such a young age, and I hunted with them for so long that I was able to hit very well with a rifle pretty early on. And then sometime in my early teens, mid-teens is when a shotgun finally clicked. I had been shooting dove and quail and other types of upland birds for a long time, and there's just that one time that I went shooting some clay targets where it finally sort of clicked, and I became a better shot. And after practicing and shooting clays and sporting clays, it really, really improved my ability to shoot a shotgun. And same thing with pistols. Pistols was probably the last one. They're very difficult to shoot. You have to make sure to keep your hands steady. You can't be squeezing your grip. The way you pull your trigger finger is very important, depending on the firearm you're using. So with any pistol, you're going to have to learn how to use it, learn how to shoot it specifically, and then practice with it if you really, really want to become a good shot. And that's one thing I can say about both of these. I'm not in conclusion going to tell you that one was better than the other. They're both very similar. They both are great. They both shoot extremely well, and they're both perfect firearms for self-defense. I think it would really come down to personal preference, how it feels in your hand, how that grip versus this grip. Both feel a little bit differently when you shoot them. Both have different types of sights, although sights is always something that you can upgrade and change later on. So if you're interested in either of these, really my advice to you is try to find friends or people you know, or gun shops that have both firearms, and at least feel them with your hands. If you can't take them to a range, to practice with both to see which one instinctively feels a little better for you, which one maybe you're hitting more on target off the bat without having to practice a whole lot, then I would recommend that's the one you go with. But either of these are great pistol. Either of these are pistols that if you practice a lot with, you can become a very good shot. They're on their own, they're terribly accurate, and with the right ammunition, you can keep your groups very tight at even some longer distances. So once again, everyone, thanks for joining me. It was a lot of fun. Sun's going down. It's time for me to head indoors. It's still the winter, so it's about to drop into the teens, and for Central Texas, that's not something that happens often for us. You know, our houses are built differently here, so we have to drip faucets and other things to keep everything from freezing up. So wish us luck, and as always, thank you for watching. I hope you're staying safe, having fun out there, and I will see you in the next video.